The hangar bay of the Celestial Wanderer hummed with its usual mechanical symphony, cooling fans whirring, hydraulic systems hissing, and the distant clank of cargo loaders. John Mercer, chief engineer of the deep space freighter, wiped grease from his hands as he performed his nightly inspection. The ship had been docked at Kepler Station for 3 days, taking on supplies before their 6-month haul to the Andromeda colonies. He was checking the landing strut pressure when he heard a sound, so out of place in the cold machinery of space travel that it made him freeze. A whimper, soft, desperate, and undeniably organic. John's hand moved instinctively to the pulse pistol at his hip. Pirates had been known to use all manner of tricks to board vessels. But, as he rounded the starboard landing gear, weapon drawn, what he found made him lower it immediately. A child. No, not quite a child. Not entirely human, either. She couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 years old by human standards. Huddled against the thermal venting system, shivering violently despite the layers of iridescent scales that covered her arms and neck. Her eyes vertical slitted and glowing faintly amber in the dim light locked onto his with a mixture of terror and desperate hope. Small horns, barely nubs, protruded from her forehead, and when she exhaled, a wisp of vapor curled from her nostrils. Don't hurt me," she whispered, her voice carrying an odd harmonic quality, as if two voices spoke simultaneously. John holstered his weapon slowly, raising his hands. "I'm not going to hurt you. What are you doing here? Where are your parents?" The child's eyes welled with luminescent tears. Mama is dying. Our ship crashed on the dark side of the station. She sent me to find help. She said, humans sometimes help." The girl's voice cracked. "Will you help? Please." Every regulation, every protocol John had learned in 20 years of space service screamed at him to report this to station security immediately. Unknowns, biological entities, potential contamination, unauthorized boarding. But when he looked into those pleading eyes, he saw only a terrified child. "What's your name?" he asked gently, kneeling to her level. Aliana. I'm John. Can you show me where your mother is?" The girl nodded frantically, her small clawed hand gripping his larger one with surprising strength. She led him through the service corridors of the station, areas marked with radiation warnings and environmental hazard signs, places where security rarely patrolled. John activated his wrist-mounted scanner, checking for atmospheric anomalies. They descended 3 levels into the station's forgotten maintenance sectors, where the artificial gravity flickered and the air tasted metallic. Finally, Aliana stopped before a twisted section of hull plating that had been torn open from the outside. "In there," she whispered. John squeezed through the gap, his suit lights illuminating a scene of devastation. A small craft barely larger than a shuttle had embedded itself into the station's superstructure. The design was unlike anything in human databases, organic curves melded with crystalline technology, now shattered and sparking with dying energy. And there, in the center of the wreckage, lay Aliana's mother. She was magnificent and terrible all at once. Easily 15 feet long, her serpentine body covered in scales that shifted color like oil on water. Great wings, torn and bleeding luminescent fluid, lay crumpled beneath her. Her head noble, reptilian, with horns that curved like ancient crowns lifted weakly as they approached. You came," the dragon rasped, her voice a deep resonance that John felt in his chest. "My daughter." She was right about humans. John's medical training, basic though it was, told him the creature was in critical condition. Multiple fractures, internal bleeding, severe radiation exposure. "What happened to you?" "Hunters," she breathed, each word an effort. "The Krill Syndicate. They pursue my kind across the stars. For our cores." She gestured weakly to her chest, where a faint glow pulsed beneath her scales. "Biocrystalline organs that power their weapons. We are nearly extinct." Aliana clutched her mother's claw, sobbing. "Mama, don't leave me. Please don't leave me." John's mind raced. He couldn't bring this massive creature aboard his ship, and station medical facilities would trigger every alarm in the sector. But he had another option, one that would cost him everything he'd built, I have a cargo hauler, he said. Medical-grade stasis pods in the hold. If I can get you into one, it might stabilize you until we reach Andromeda. There's a xenobiological research station, they're cutting edge. They might be able to help. The dragon's eyes, amber and ancient, studied him. Why would you risk this? You don't know us. Your authorities would imprison you for harboring undocumented xenoforms. John looked at Aliana, still clinging to her dying mother. He thought of his own daughter, lost years ago to a colony plague, and the helplessness he felt watching her slip away. Because someone asked me for help, he said simply, and I can give it. The next hours were a blur of desperate engineering. John used his cargo loaders to carefully extract the dragon from the wreckage, every movement agonizing for her but necessary. Aliana never left her mother's side, singing something in a language that sounded like wind through crystals, perhaps a lullaby, perhaps a prayer. By the time they reached the Celestial Wanderer, John had burned through favors, hacked security feeds, and redirected half the ship's power systems. The stasis pod designed for human colonists barely accommodated the dragon's form. But, as the cryogenic systems engaged and her vital signs stabilized, he allowed himself to breathe. Aliana stood beside the pod, her small hand pressed against the frosted glass. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for helping Mama. John placed a hand on her shoulder. We're not out of this yet. Station authorities will notice my unauthorized departure. We'll be outlaws by morning, but Mama will live. He looked at the stabilizing readings on his monitor. She has a chance. That's more than she had an hour ago. Aliana turned to him, and despite everything, her alien features, her otherworldly nature, her smile was purely, beautifully childlike. Then you're a hero. Mama always said humans could be heroes. As the Celestial Wanderer broke dock and accelerated toward the jump point, John Mercer, engineer, smuggler, and now guardian of Dragon refugees, set course for Andromeda. Behind him, alarms wailed and security channels erupted with calls for his arrest. He didn't care. In the reflection of the stasis pod's glass, he saw Aliana curled up beside her mother, finally sleeping peacefully, and knew he'd made the right choice. Some things were worth risking everything for. Some calls for help couldn't be ignored. That was what made humanity human.